Jamaica will complete its LTS strategy. But to note, the climate policy that Jamaica has already tabled in this House outlines, I believe, pretty clearly the role of the varying entities indeed in managing climate change. One thing to note, and it would have come, and remember from this case or I should recall, in the Standing Finance Committee earlier this year, we did discuss the establishment of a climate finance unit to be housed at the Ministry of Finance, and that is going through its process now, which we expect to be complete at the end of the year. I'm not sure if disruptions to work because of Hurricane Melissa, but certainly it's projected to be done this year. To note, the Climate Finance Committee is to ensure there's no slip while that institutional capacity is being built at the Ministry of Finance. Now, the climate work that we do is undertaken by a number of MDAs, and that is not unique to the climate change space. The ministry does have coordinating authority for the subject area, but as with national security, which has varying agencies that contribute to the security of the nation, you have customs and revenue protection and FID at finance, you have the JDF at OPM, you have varying entities right across government that contribute to security. Similarly, you have varying entities that contribute to your development plans through the lens of climate adaptation. That is not unique to this particular portfolio. Now, to note, yes, for clarity, the PPCR drawdown is available to us before the end of December. Now, why it is available to us is that Jamaica would have completed its PPCR project, but has a framework in place, meaning the steering committee, the implementing agencies, the oversight capacity is already in place, and the IDB is our partner, implementing partner on the PPCR project. So it doesn't require reinventing or resubmission of the framework to be able to draw down on the funds. Now, this is for resilience works that include water storage, water harvesting, climate smart agriculture, drip irrigation, those sorts of projects. So basically, we'll be re-engaging the project and moving to assist those who have been impacted the most. As it relates to JSIF and DBJ's role, I think you have to differentiate between their role through the GCF lens relative to their role in terms of their national mandates. DBJ, JSIF, and PIOJ are accredited entities of the GCF, meaning they're able to submit projects and receive funding and implement on the nation's behalf. In the context of the GCF, we expect the DBJ to house our blue-green fund, which will then mobilize funds much faster to small-scale projects throughout the country. We expect JSIF to do infrastructure integrated type projects, and we expect PIOJ to do technical work in terms of overseeing the greening of the central bank, which, as you know, is complete, overseeing the ability to list green bond, the project that got the, sorry? Well, the new economy is green, and the management of the country will be green for a very long time. So nothing is wrong with that. But so that's the role in the context of the JSIF. But I think the mandates of DBJ generally are well understood. The mandates of PIOJ and JSIF are well understood. They have participation and membership on the Climate Advisory Board, so they're fully aware of where we're going and what the risks are and what it is we undertake. As it relates to the question from the member from Central Westmoreland, the CTF limits tend to be in the range of $10 million. Because this has been made available to us through an emergency response window, you wouldn't have had a project sitting, waiting in that space. What they have said to us is they've already made available the $50 million to the World Bank as a part of their envelope at deeply, deeply concessional rates, but there is route for Jamaica to submit a project in the range of $10 million that would be converted to grant financing as opposed to debt financing.
Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law do we meditate day and night. For we shall be like trees planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth our fruit in our season. Our leaves shall not wither, and whatsoever we do shall prosper. Welcome to the Colin Bell Show for yet another Tuesday evening. A Tuesday evening when we were anticipating earlier the Minister of Finance, and we have not seen her risen to her feet just yet. So we're still waiting to hear the Minister of Finance. In fact, we heard the Prime Minister speak earlier. Yeah, man. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We heard the Prime Minister earlier, and come again for us. But, you know, we are not in normal times. And I'll say this evening that the Prime Minister is human. The Prime Minister is human. And I think the Prime Minister undergo some stress, under pressure. And certain utterances shows that level of pressure. I hope we're going to the Finance Minister now. We're looking for what is that?
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the fiscal policy paper for the financial year 2025-26 interim report as laid on the table of the House on the 2nd day of December 2025 be referred to the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the House of Representatives for consideration and report. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take that motion.
Public business.
Madam Speaker, in public business, we will hear from the Minister of Finance as she tables the third supplemental estimates.
Here goes, here goes. Share up the live, share up the live. So it's not a statement, the supplementary budget
I
she's
now
going to
move for
present.
the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motions, notice of which I gave earlier.
Question is that both motions, the standing order be suspended to take both motions. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Yes, she going to talk now. She have to talk.
Yes,
But,
Minister, you may comments.
Madam Speaker, before I table the fiscal, before I refer the supplement, the third supplementary and fiscal policy paper, interim fiscal policy papers to the PAAC, I'd like to make some comments. Madam Speaker, Alan Gerhard, who was a meteorologist at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for 35 years and helped forecast some of America's largest weather-related disasters, including Hurricane Katrina and the 2011 tornado outbreak in the southeast of the US, said, "It is not hyperbole," meaning it's not exaggeration, to say that Western Jamaica experienced something near to the worst tropical cyclone or hurricane impacts our planet can produce. Madam Speaker, he did not say it was the worst the Atlantic Ocean can produce. He said it was the worst hurricane impact our planet can produce. So, Madam Speaker, to the people of Western Jamaica, from Hannibal to Westmoreland to St. Elizabeth to parts of Manchester to Trelawney to St. James, I say, fellow Jamaicans there, we are so deeply sorry for what
Hello.
you and your communities have endured
Yes, good evening.
and the devastation you're
Yeah,
facing.
man, we're live now, but we are listening to the
There are
Minister
no
of Finance.
words to properly capture what you have
Yeah,
gone through. We are in awe of the resilience you're showing. Your strength is incredible. We stand with you and want you to know that this government is here to support you in rebuilding your homes, in rebuilding your churches, in rebuilding your schools and your roads and your access. Your churches, in rebuilding your schools and your roads and your access to electricity, water, telecommunications, and your communities. But most of all, this government is here to help you to rebuild your future. Thank you to the people of Jamaica, the diaspora, Friends of Jamaica, international partners, NGOs, our CARICOM partners, countries of the world for the outpouring of support. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the World Bank and the IDB for their global rapid post-disaster damage estimation report. It chronicled every sector of the economy and gave us, in pretty rapid succession, the extent of the damage that we suffered. It also looked on a parish by parish basis, and we know now that St. Elizabeth, in terms of the damage, was the worst. 2.3 billion worth of damage. St. James was next at 1.8 billion, and Westmoreland at 1.4 billion. Value of residential damage, including content, total non-residential damage, including content, total infrastructure damage, total agricultural damage. That was what was included in that number. Of note, Madam Speaker, the damage assessment does not include the broader economic losses, which can be about the same or higher than the physical damage for infrastructure, residential, non-residential, and agriculture. So layered on top of that would be the economic loss in terms of business and other disruption of services. Madam Speaker, we can tally up the physical and economic damage. And by now, we have a pretty good handle on that. But Madam Speaker, The greatest unknown is the impact that the Hurricane Melissa has caused on the psyche, which is the soul, the mind, the spirit of Jamaicans who have lost their homes, their belongings, their communities, their churches, and their familiar way of life. In much the same way we are moving with haste to begin the reconstruction, we must include the mental well-being of our people in that process. Madam Speaker, that we are here sitting, and in my case standing, talking about the damage
Yeah, Martha.
means we're alive to see this day. Not so. Several persons who were reported to have lost their lives. We grieve with those families and ask God's blessings on the families and friends as together we assist them to rebuild their lives and their dreams. Madam Speaker, this government's steadfastness in remaining true to fiscal prudence, despite the siren song of some who wanted profligacy and run with it budgets, or steadfastness has served us well. For 10 straight budgets, we have demonstrated a resolve
never call you about
through different ministers of finance and different administrations of over on this side. Jamaica must emerge from being always in need of a program to keep its finances on the straight and narrow. Madam Speaker, there was a particular chart that I had in my budget speech in February of this year, and it had to do with our framework for national natural disaster risk financing. And at the time, I said, Madam Speaker, the commitment of this government is to continue strengthening our multi-layered national natural disaster risk financing and to fill in any gaps that we have. And at that time, in February of this year, I announced that by March of this year, we would add another instrument for an amount of Jamaican 6.5 billion to bring the total of what would be available to Jamaica to 130.6 billion at that time when I addressed the House in February of this year. And I also said, of course, how much we can access will depend on the severity of the disaster. Well, Madam Speaker, we know now how much was available and how much we were able to access. Madam Speaker, as I said then, we're continuing to expand our disaster risk financing. Now I'm already speaking with our international partners.
We have a male and have a female minister of finance.
That our disaster financing with Caribbean catastrophe risk insurance facility was already reinstated, Madam Speaker, up to the US 91 million. And we are discussing increasing that coverage. Of note, Madam Speaker, CRIF, which is what we call them, will be launching a micro home insurance product through Guardian this month in Jamaica, designed for workers. This is the beginning of building a culture within our population of having insurance for their homes. The microinsurance market is developed and is cost effective. We will begin that journey with Jamaicans and we will begin developing that culture. Madam Speaker, the World Bank and the IDB in their report said that Jamaica maintains one of the Caribbean's most advanced sovereign disaster risk financing system, including contingency funds, parametric insurance, and a US 150 million World Bank supported catastrophe bond intended to provide rapid post-disaster liquidity, which was triggered on November 7, 2025. Madam Speaker, Jamaica's resilience is often described as legendary, not because the country avoids natural disasters, but because of the remarkable speed, spirit, and consistency with which its people and economy recover from devastating shocks. This characterization stems from several key historical and cultural factors. Madam Speaker, the speed at which Jamaica has historically bounced back is a primary reason for this reputation. If you recall, Madam Speaker, Hurricane Gilbert in 1988, despite it being one of the most powerful and destructive storms ever at that time to hit the island, the tourism sector, for example, largely reopened within weeks or months, demonstrating an immense collective effort in cleanup and repair. Recall as well, Madam Speaker, the Herculean collective efforts during COVID 2020, 5 years ago, and how quickly we bounced back from Hurricane Beryl in July of last year. Within 2 quarters, our economy had begun to rebound. Our resilience, Madam Speaker, is also in the sectoral bounce back. In particular, our economy has shown an ability to activate the construction sector quickly after a storm, channeling rebuilding efforts into immediate economic activity that aids recovery. Additionally, Madam Speaker, in the agricultural sector, the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining has reported that farmers are back in the field already. Yes. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, we only have to reflect that Jamaica's economy was surging before Hurricane Melissa. What? Yes, it was surging. So, Madam Speaker, our popular phrase, we little but we tell translates roughly to we're small but we're strong. It encapsulates a cultural mindset of defiance, determination, and pride in overcoming adversity, whether economic hardship or natural disaster. Madam Speaker, at the economic and institutional level, Jamaica has built systems to manage disaster risks that reinforce this resilience. The government's continuous process of reviewing and improving disaster management plans and infrastructure standards show an institutional ability to adapt and to learn from previous events, reinforcing long-term resilience. Madam Speaker, the legendary nature of Jamaica's resilience lies in the combination of the indomitable spirit of its people, strong community bonds, rapid physical recovery times, and proactive financial management strategies for managing risk. I have no doubt, Madam Speaker, that all of us will come back from this. We will rebuild together. Madam Speaker, the Bank of Jamaica recently reported that Jamaica's gross international reserves remain robust relative to the assessing reserve adequacy benchmark. At end of October 2025, the gross international reserves amounted to US 6.2 billion, which was US 487 million higher than the outturn at the end of October 2024. The central bank said that looking ahead over the near term, gross reserves are likely to remain robust. Madam Speaker, I quote the Bank of Jamaica's report because this Hurricane Melissa has demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt why we must have strong foreign currency reserves. In periods of disaster, whether that disaster is external to Jamaica but has an impact on Jamaica or natural disaster, having strong foreign currency reserves gives us flexibility. We don't have to worry as to whether or not we can pay for medicines, building supplies, equipment, or anything else needed to quickly get Jamaica and its people and the businesses back up. Madam Speaker, the foreign currency reserves is like your rent money. You should not party with that rent money.
Oh,
And so my
but you
message
did.
today, Madam Speaker, is one of hope. We will rebuild homes, churches, schools, businesses, lives, livelihood, our telecom network, our electricity grids, hotels, roads, our produce, our vegetable crops, fishing villages, animal farms. Today, we construct temporary containerized homes because we must move fast to put those who are still without any place to go into a safe place with a roof over their heads. Some place for them to cook their own meals and some place for sanitary convenience. But even as we build temporary structures, we're planning the work to build permanent houses on lands that are not swamplands or vulnerable to slippage. Today, Madam Speaker, we give food packages and hot meals to those who've lost everything, but alongside that, we're helping to restore livelihoods and put persons in a position in which they can begin life anew. Today, Madam Speaker, we clear roads and replant the electric poles that have been scattered by Hurricane Melissa. Tomorrow, we build highways that are climate resilient, promote efficient connectivity, and have underground conduits for electricity, grid, and telecommunications network. And so, Madam Speaker, in my message of hope, I say to Jamaicans, especially in the West, never will we leave you, never will we forsake you. Madam Speaker, today I bring the third supplementary to Parliament to reflect the recovery, reconstruction, and resilience building that must happen, as well as the normal business to which we must attend. The good order of government dictates that the Planning Institute gives its estimate of GDP growth, and the Bank of Jamaica also gives its outlook for inflation, net international reserves, the balance of payment, the status of the financial sector. This information then becomes the basis for the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service to project the Hurricane Melissa impact on tax revenues, impact on expenditure, debt to GDP ratio, and fiscal balance among the important variables. This information then goes to the Independent Fiscal Commission that verifies that the impact of the hurricane on the economy is at least 1.5% of GDP, because that is the law that guides the suspension of the fiscal rules. We have that report from the Independent Fiscal Commission entitled Validation of Fiscal Impact of Hurricane Melissa for the suspension of fiscal rules, fiscal year 2025-26. It states that based on the information provided by the Planning Institute of Jamaica and the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the fiscal impact is estimated at 5.3% of GDP over the period fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2029-30. Let me read that again. The fiscal impact is estimated at 5.3% of GDP over the period fiscal year 2025-26 to fiscal year 2029-30, well above the legislative threshold of 1.5% to trigger suspension of the fiscal rules. As such, the order which we will take today, subject to affirmative resolution, will permit the fiscal rules to be temporarily suspended for at least an initial period of 1 year. This is how the law states it. If it warrants an extension, then the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service will present the case. Madam Speaker, our international partners have rallied to our support with a major package of financing and grants. Of that amount, US $2.4 billion is targeted at the private sector for major projects. We thank our international partners. The swift coming together was only possible because of the confidence they have in the economy and the government of Jamaica. This is a huge vote of confidence, Madam Speaker. And we will use the funding for growth-inducing capital expenditure, the kind that ensures we get productivity. I know that Minister Samuda is ready for that water and sewage distribution system to accommodate massive tourism growth, increase in the quantity of reliable water to Jamaican households and our agricultural sector. I'm sure all of us who have traveled to Western Jamaica noted that the highways have stood up. And Prime Minister is ready to continue creating our resilient road network and digital infrastructure with access to affordable broadband so that our schools and our homes, our schools can be fully equipped. In all of this, Madam Speaker, there are lessons for disaster risk financing and stable macroeconomic policy framework. And the main lesson for disaster risk financing is to plan in advance by using a combination of pre-arranged funding tools and risk transfer mechanisms like insurance to respond more quickly and predictably to disaster. It also teaches that a single instrument is insufficient and that strategies must be layered to cover different risks and response timeliness.
Some would have called back like after 6, like about 6:30.
Madam Speaker, embracing stable macroeconomic and fiscal discipline is a culture and a discipline that we will continue to build because it provides the cushion for disasters such as this, in which our real GDP is currently projected to decline by 4.3% for fiscal year 2025-26, compared to the growth forecast of 2.2% presented in the annual fiscal policy paper in February 2025. Over the medium term, Madam Speaker, real GDP growth is expected to average in the range of positive 1 to 2% as the economy recovers from the contraction projected for this current fiscal year. We also expect inflation to stabilize within the target range of 4 to 6%. In the external sector, the current account as a percent of GDP is projected to remain in surplus averaging about 0.7% over the 3 years following fiscal year 2025-26. Madam Speaker, our debt to GDP, which is a number that I know many Jamaicans know and follow. Our debt to GDP is projected to increase to 68.2% by the end of this fiscal year. So I want to say, I know that there are some persons who call themselves economists or analysts who jumped out with a projection of the debt to GDP. Those projections were way off the mark, and they do not resemble anything, that looks like Jamaica. Madam Speaker, if you recall, we ended fiscal year 2024-25 at 62.4% debt to GDP, and was on a path to be at 60% by the end of this fiscal year, which is 2 years earlier than planned. In the medium term, starting with fiscal year 2026-27, we project that the debt to GDP ratio will begin again to decline, and we're expecting to see that at 66.1% and then to 63.8%, followed by 63.4% in fiscal year 2028-29, and settling out at 64.2% by fiscal year 2029-30. 64.2%. So, Madam Speaker, with the announcement yesterday from our international partners, as you heard the Prime Minister say, a virtual meeting this morning, in which they heard from the Prime Minister and other conversations that we've been having. In time, we will get the specifics of those facilities. And I want to point out, because I'm sure there's a temptation, or I shouldn't say the temptation, I'm sure that those who are not familiar with how you calculate debt to GDP, they're just going to take the $6.7 billion and convert it and say, wow, this goes on top of the debt stock. But that's not so. With our international partners, there is the period of deciding when you take on these loans. It's not the same as going to the international markets, where if you go for $500 million, you get $500 million and you have to put it on your balance sheet. It's a different process with the international partners. So we will be able to manage our debt to GDP. Yes. Exactly, Prime Minister. We'll manage it. Yes. So, Madam Speaker, for those who are speculating about what funds we have received thus far, we've been utilizing most of our own funding, as well as what we received for insurance proceeds. And I'd like to say, as we go forward, we will obviously increase the granularity of what we report on, but I can say that I can report that all in-kind supplies that were consigned to ODPEM will be accounted for. You heard Prime Minister talk earlier about the system that is becoming available there. At our seaport and airports, all of the in-kind that passes there for individuals, companies, charities that come through customs will be accounted for already. I have a report from customs that shows me the value, how many persons, or how many, what was the input through the customs system. Individuals who bring suitcases or of supplies for families and friends their checked or unchecked baggage on flights. Obviously, that's not going to be accounted for by the government. Cash and kind sent to the opposition, families and friends, obviously is not going to be accounted for by the government. So if anybody wants to know how much the opposition has received, this is a question that should be put to the leader of the opposition and the shadow spokesperson on finance. We are also aware, Madam Speaker, that there are many entities. There are many entities that launched various platforms to bring in funds to help victims. There was no requirement for those private entities to pool their funds with those that came into government. We applaud the private entities, but those are not funds for which the government can account. Madam Speaker, turning now to the third supplementary. In addition to the normal running of government for which additional amounts are provided, in the third supplementary, Madam Speaker, is Hurricane Melissa response and relief, $29.3 billion or 142 million US dollars. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development will receive the largest share at $7.2 billion for road infrastructure and procurement of 3,300 containerized folding units of housing. The Ministry of Local Government and Community Development has been allocated $4.6 billion to help with post-hurricane relief efforts, fund the National Solid Waste pre- and post-hurricane cleanup, and it has gotten some support as well to the municipal corporation in that allocation. The Ministry of Tourism will receive $3.4 billion to support recovery of the tourism sector. As you know, many workers have been let go. Is that a good word, Minister? The Ministry of Water, Environment, Climate Change is being allocated $3.2 billion to continue the restoration work of water and sewage network. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining will also be allocated $3 billion for relief and recovery within the agriculture and fisheries sector. And the Ministry of Energy, Transport and Telecommunications, $1.5 billion. Lots of repairs to government buildings and other critical infrastructure. Alongside those Melissa-induced spending is the government's own spending to keep government going. But Madam Speaker, that's the power of preparedness and fiscal discipline. In the face of nature's power, we are reminded of our vulnerability, but also the incredible strength of the Jamaican people. We thank those who rallied by our side, or the diaspora, or Caribbean brethren, the international financial community, the government and people of the many countries who did not wait for an invitation to help. They saw the catastrophe and rallied to bring whatever assistance they could. By standing together, supporting each other, and working as one, we can face any crisis with courage and rebuild our lives and our communities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
If you're just joining us, we just listened to the Minister of Finance spoke a while ago. Now we're going to hear Julian Robinson.
And Minister, could you circulate a copy of your presentation for us? It's easier to follow if we have a hard copy. My first question, when will you provide and table in the House the report from the Independent Fiscal Commission, which it was tabled?
They know by the way of them.
They have provided the report. It's normally sent directly to the Parliament and then table here, which would affirm the suspension of the fiscal rules. So it has been sent to the House, because that information is important for certainly the PAAC and for us as an independent body to assess the information in the supplementary budget.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, you can, when you respond, you can give me that detail. Okay. So so I'm asking for that to be tabled. You went into the debt to the GDP projections for the next 4 to 5 years. Were these projections done prior to the announcement of the package of $6.7 billion US dollars? And if so, will you have to revise these based on the details of that the loan grants, etc., which will be worked out? Can you indicate to the House when you'll be able to come back to the House to give us details of the $6.7 billion US dollar program, which was announced by the IFIs yesterday? Because it is difficult to have an informed discussion about the debts without knowing those details, without knowing whether there are moratoria on the loans, what the repayment periods are, etc. So if you can give me a time frame for that. And you mentioned growth-inducing capital expenditure. What is the government going to do differently now from what it has done over the last 4 to 5 fiscal years, where we have underspent our capital budget by significant amounts? We have had to reallocate the capital budget for recurrent expenditure and many other different things. So what is going to be different in this environment so that we can actually spend the very limited capital budget, which generally is only about, from central government, 5% of the overall budget, and if you add the public bodies, another 5%. So it would be important to understand what we will be doing differently to ensure that we spend the money so that we can achieve the economic growth that you project. You mentioned that the Independent Fiscal Commission projected a 5.3% GDP fall. Is that for this year only? And what is the projection for the next 3 or 4 fiscal years? Again, that's why it's important for us to have sight of that report from the Independent Fiscal Commission. And we recognize that this budget, the supplementary, is, given the circumstances, not the normal run-of-the-mill supplementary. And as such, for us to be able to properly analyze it, we would need all that data, and certainly PAAC, which is meeting tomorrow, would benefit from that information for that informed analysis. Thank you.
And next, the opposition leader, and after that, the member from Portland Eastern. And then,
thank you, Madam Speaker. My understanding is that this is a motion.
Yeah, it is.
So we're debating a motion.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Minister, it really would have been helpful if you had circulated a copy of your presentation to us, because there is a lot of detail and important information in it, and it's much easier to follow and respond to that if we have it in writing. So I'm hoping that that will be done. Minister, first of all, when we're discussing the disaster risk financing framework, I think it's important to recognize the work of others who helped to put that in place. In particular, I want to acknowledge the seminal work that was done by then Minister of Finance, Dr. Omar Davies, in the development of the CRIF as a Caribbean model, a regional model of parametric insurance, which has, we have been able to benefit on this occasion by some over 90 million US dollars. So I think it's important, and I want to put that on the record of the House, because sometimes those contributions tend to be overlooked. Madam Speaker, we have a fiscal policy paper here, which I look forward to reading, but just on a quick glance at the content of it in relation to the public debt stock, clearly it was prepared in advance of what was announced yesterday by the multilaterals, and that very large financing package which Jamaica is being offered of 6.7 billion US dollars. The projections in the fiscal policy paper, therefore, I assume, are predicated on the state of things which existed before that financing became available. And so I join and endorse what the shadow spokesman for finance has said as to the need to see updated projections around those debt to GDP numbers, and indeed our growth numbers, given the additional resources that will be taken on board to finance the recovery. Madam Speaker, you haven't mentioned anything about amending the Financial Administration and Audit Act so as to push back the target date for the debt to GDP ratio to be achieved. The projections you have here indicate that it will not be achieved by the target date of 2028 March, which we understand. But suspending the fiscal rule is one thing, and moving the target date for achieving the desired ceiling on debt is another thing. So you need to tell us when you plan to deal with that. Madam Speaker, I'm hoping that the report that the PIOJ and the Fiscal Commissioner, I believe it is, has prepared, which is a basis for the order that you're seeking to bring here for approval to suspend the fiscal rules, be made available to us so that we can understand the background of this request. Obviously, we're aware in general terms of the background because we are fully aware of the mayhem caused. But it would be good to see the technical analysis and the supporting analysis that has taken place by those persons entrusted by our law for the recommendation that the necessary parameters have been met to justify a suspension of the fiscal rules. And I hope in the interest of transparency and good governance that we will see those documents. Madam Speaker, as I have indicated earlier, we are going into a new era where Jamaica has this massive recovery to finance and is taking on a huge financing package to do this. That financing package is largely debt financing, preponderantly so. The Prime Minister indicated that there are shovel-ready projects, or at least approved projects in the pipeline that private sector investors can get behind, and that would be supported by the private sector financing bodies that are affiliated with the World Bank and I think the IDB. And that's fine, but the actual investors who are going to take the risk of making those investments have to be identified. And that is why I'm saying that 2.4 billion is not assured. And we want to hear more about what projects and what investors are going to be coming to the table to undertake those projects.
World Bank, they put out the 41%. You have it anywhere near you can send it to me?
So, Madam Speaker, there's a lot that
okay, you're the woman said GDP at 68%.
We don't know any of the terms of this proposed borrowing, the interest rates, the tenures of the loans, any moratoria on interest and principal. From the numbers that were tabled today in the supplementary budget, I can see
you send it to anybody?
Interest expenses are not going to be incurred.
But Julian asked him already and asked
that means that those multilateral lenders have agreed to suspend the obligation to pay during this period. I'd like to know for how long that suspension is going to last. I don't think that Jamaica has natural disaster clauses in any of our borrowings. I'm not aware of that. That has been pioneered by Barbados in their bond offerings, and I believe Grenada also took advantage of that, where an event of a calamity of this nature caused by some natural disaster takes place, there's a period of suspension of debt payments for the duration of the effect of the disaster on an objective basis. And of course, that releases significant cash flow to help fund the country through that period. I don't think we have that formally in our certainly in our bond documentation. I don't know whether there are any public sector borrowings from multilaterals that have it, but even if there aren't, from what I'm seeing in the supplementary estimates, the multilaterals have agreed to suspend some of their payments because we're seeing savings on interest payments in the supplementary budget from the multilaterals. Perhaps you could tell us a bit more about that as well. So, Madam Speaker, I look forward to more information on this proposed order to suspend the fiscal rules in the interest of transparency and good governance. Thank you.
We're listening to
Before you,
the House
is
of
the
Parliament.
member from Portland Eastern, and then the member from East and Port Royal, Kingston East and Port Royal. Go ahead, member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, I would like to ask what would have informed you in relation to your decision for the importation of container homes, which are not yet here, and spending or foreign exchange to do so? And was there a comparison? Was there a comparison between whether or not it would be more feasible to actually build starter homes using concrete that would certainly stand up to a category 5? That's the first question that I'm asking. The next question the next question I'm asking. Oh, I know, but I'm asking. I would like answer. I would like you to answer that question though, in terms of helping me. The next thing I'd like to know, if it is that, as you would have said, that there is a projection of 68% for the debt to GDP. How is it? How is it consolidated where Melissa is said to have wiped out 41% of our GDP? How can you consolidate that? And the next thing that I would like to know in terms of a contribution to what you're doing, there was a mention last week in relation to the use of a loan to JPS. Minister, is there a decision on your part in the event that JPS is unable to come up with the remainder, if the government is prepared to lend JPS the entire amount so as to ensure that we're not at a loss? And that I'm asking you, Minister, to just give me some clarity on that. Thank you.
Me that just talking at Parliament.
Members, the new members. So this section is
A debate.
a debate on a motion. And nothing is wrong if you ask questions as well. But it's not quite question time, so at this session you have a little bit more time if you have also come prepared to debate on the motion. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, in relation to today's tabling of the third supplementary estimates and the acknowledgement that we really don't have a complete picture having regard to the announcements made earlier by the Prime Minister, is it reasonable for us to proceed with this debate for the third supplementary estimates and be quite likely to return very soon when the picture is far more comprehensive to have
all right, we'll find one of the documents.
Supplementary
And
estimates.
my boy asked a question, then
The
you hear him.
second point
Yeah.
is that as we relax
Yeah, man, he asked the question, then
rules,
straight up, man.
one of the institutional framework that we use to enable greater discipline in how we're able to manage the process to now was the establishment of EPOC, which was the body that enabled the government to keep on track. Is there any contemplation of such a body to be reestablished as we now move back into a higher level of debt to GDP? And thirdly, in relation to the JPS loan, last week we weren't able to get details on the specifics of the loan, such as what interest rate is being charged, and very importantly, in the event of a conversion, what value of the assets has been determined. And I know the member from East Portland has already asked the question as to where the balance will come from, because the minister last week did indicate that the JPSO cannot go on the market to raise $1. And if in fact the amount of money is indeed 350 million, again that has been lowered by 50. So if we are saying 300 million, where is that balance of 150 or so to come from to enable the JPSCO to have full restoration of all of the country by the February deadline, as the minister had indicated? We didn't get any details last week. Has that loan been formally signed? And if so, if we could reveal the terms. Right, and of course, which is a government entity that is going to be responsible for administering the loan, passing the money, and to account for it to this parliament.
Member from Westmoreland Eastern, you're next.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister, earlier you said that the damage is greatest in St. Elizabeth in relation to the Monetary Valley. And I'm not debating that, because I suspect that is based on the assets that they had before and the damage to that asset that would give that. What I wanted to know was more about the number of persons that were damaged, because the fact that Westmoreland had a greater number of board houses would put a greater number of individuals in this place, and the value of the board house would be cheaper than the more permanent structure. So it's easy to get a figure that suggests that the damage is greater in that parish. However, the impact may be greater, or from what I'm seeing, it's greater in Westmoreland. And some, like St. James, would have hotels and those other things that clearly are more valuable, and therefore it's easy to see how they would have a higher cost. So the number of houses damaged, and that leads me into the point about the number of container homes that are being ordered. I think the Prime Minister had said 5,000 in an earlier presentation, either here or elsewhere.
Right here.
5,000.
Right in the parliament. In the parliament.
But what is reflected here is 3,300. So, right. So my issue is that the assessments that are being done to determine how many persons have been affected, whether or not we have current numbers on them, because from Eastern Westmoreland alone, our estimate is that we have more than 5,000 houses that are totally destroyed, not damaged, totally destroyed. So the budgetary allocations that we are making, if we are making allocation for 3,300 containers, there has to be another allocation then that is looking at some other temporary solution to get these persons the dignity of having shelter over their heads. Because some of these persons are currently in some of the shelters and need to vacate so that we can get on with school. Because then we have a different complication of the learning loss that is going to take place if students don't have access to the schools. And you have persons who cannot benefit from a container home because it cannot get to the location because of the terrain. So the container home is going to require that you have to use a crane to take it there and to stand it up. If the crane can't gain access to where their piece of land is, their plot of land, then they wouldn't be able to benefit from that. So there has to be a different solution to give them a temporary solution, which needs to be budgeted for, which I'm not seeing here currently. So I'm just saying that
go again.
I think we need to get more up-to-date numbers so we can get what the true dislocation is of the persons in those 6 parishes, and then we can make adequate provision for temporary shelter for them because it is a pressing issue.
Next is the member from St. Andrews Southwest. And for you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister, I wanted to follow on from where the member from Westmoreland Eastern was talking, the last point made. I was intrigued by the metric you used to value the damage. And I was thinking that if we look at the total damage, what metric are we using? All the metrics that we can. For example, what is the value of a board house versus a concrete house? What's the value of any house totally destroyed? How do we value that? What is the value we put to the trauma of the number of individuals in a parish, which would then be subject to more people, a higher level of trauma? How is that valued and how is it compared? What?
You hungry? Find coupons for your favorite restaurants only on Samsung Members app. Download now and satisfy your hunger with discounts.
And what we use. So I want us to be very clear on that and to make sure that as we seek to rank these constituencies, these areas, that we take all of this into account. So that's one. I was also thinking, Madam Speaker, to you, Minister, that as we move to use the fiscal space that is being created and to spend the financial resources that we are looking at now, whether it is for relief, for recovery, for reconstruction.
Anybody think the minister going to answer these questions?
All Jamaica having made the sacrifice, the space now being created, that the benefits accrue to all Jamaicans. And I know that the Prime Minister, maybe you yourself, Minister, might get a little touchy when I speak about all Jamaicans, because again, I want to talk about the importance of not being partisan. Yeah? No, it is. And believe you me, I'm going to talk about it every day until I believe that we have gone beyond that. And what I wanted to suggest as one of the ways of moving there is some form of self-reporting. There are more forms of self-reporting so that houses, families who are in remote areas that might not come on the radar, yes, have an opportunity to self-report that here we are here.
Good evening, everybody. If you're just joining us, welcome to Portland Spice TV. Welcome to Caribbean Radio HD. Caribbean Radio 97.9 HD4. We are carrying the Parliament in Jamaica live this evening again because the finance minister was just on her feet and it's a debate, so many members of the opposition are responding. This is the Colin Bell Show live on Caribbean Radio 97.9 HD4. We go back to the live sitting of the House of Representatives here in Jamaica.
And I think we also need to make sure that it can be done through many ways, yeah, because we know what connectivity looks like in some places, yeah, that if you're going to rely on that solely, it might be difficult. But I think it's going to be important to make sure that no one is missed. And it is something really very dear to my heart. I say to individuals when I'm in campaign, I am going to talk on behalf of the PNP. I am going to fight for the PNP, but I am a Jamaican first. You nor anybody get to claim their Jamaican-ness over my Jamaicanness. And I just want to make that clear. Yeah, I just want to make that very clear. Minister, as you were speaking, you spoke about the infrastructure improvement and so on. And you said that for some of these, that how the benefit will accrue to the tourism sector. I am hoping that Mr. Speaker, I wanted, Minister, to ensure that the reconstruction that we're doing of our infrastructure is really not just about our tourists. It is as about them as it is about Jamaicans. So, for example, in all that we're doing, I am hoping that the sewage system in Greenwich Town, for example, there'll finally be space to make sure that it is done. That there will, yes, yes. Um, no, finally, no, because we are supposed to be building better and, yes, no, so I'm raising it because in 2025, Minister, I'm sure Minister has been to Greenwich Primary and knows the problem of sewage there and the smell in school. And the smell in school every day. And so as we build better, I am hoping that there is a little space for those issues we have ignored and those issues we have not been able to address, but where the fiscal space might very well allow those to be done. Thank you.
I want to remind members that it's just open the issue as it relates to the supplementary estimate not closing yet. She's coming back here with the issue. So we don't have to, look here. We don't have, look here. No.
One day, Busha. Warmington sitting as the Speaker of the House, people. No. One day, Busha.
No. This is the introduction of the supplementary estimate. It doesn't mean that every member has to speak on it.
Today.
It's going, she asked for it to go to the PAAC tomorrow. That's all she asked for. The debate is not yet open. When we come back, we can speak. Madam Minister, can you just respond that we can move on? I'll take the member from Southeast St. Anne.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Minister, Minister, there is a frustration among. I am the voice of the people, and so yes, from me, because that's what they are feeling. And that frustration, Minister, relates to in a constituency like mine and many of the rural ones that were not as affected. They want the opportunity to get back to work. They want the opportunity. They want the opportunity to be productive again. And they are not getting the opportunity to do so. So in constituencies like mine, we are still less than 60% in terms of the restoration of electricity. So the productivity and the standing up which we're talking about, we're not quite allowing those who can to do so. So when I speak of that frustration, it's because some of those industries, agriculture, which you spoke about quite eloquently, tourism, which you also touched on. These are the sectors in which they work, but they're not being supported to continue, even though where they live is not as affected as some of the other areas. And so I want us to give consideration to that, because there's a mental health, a psychological toll which this is taking, and which, as we talk about the effect, we should not only look at the 5 or 6 Western parishes, but we need to look more broadly, because the effects are far-reaching. In the supplementary estimate, in the fiscal paper rather, mention is made of the claims by some of the private partnerships, the public-private partnerships, including NMIA and SIA, arising out of the COVID pandemic. And so the question I want to ask whether...
May I remind you that the debate is not yet open. She's trying to introduce the stuff here. Look here.
You're one day, Busherman. Welcome, everybody. Welcome if you're just joining us. We are listening to a live sitting of the House of Representatives, where the Minister of Finance just spoke.
I want to ask the Minister, the Speaker. No, man, the question, Minister, relates to the claims that have been made. If you could provide some specifics as to the claims that have been made by these, as part of these public-private partnerships, namely the Sangster and the Norman Manley International Airports. So those are my 2 points. Thank you.
Welcome to Caribbean Radio 97.9 HD4. This is the Colin Bell Show. We're listening to a sitting of the House of Representatives here in Jamaica as we come to you live from Port Antonio, Jamaica.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to use my entire 30 minutes on this motion. And you, as a stickler for the standing orders, would understand that. But,
Member, no, you can speak for the 45 minutes or 30 minutes now, but you know you don't have the chance to speak when you come back to close. You do it right now. You have the time then.
no such thing. Yeah. So I want to know how you're going to stop me from speaking when I am the one tabling the PAAC report.
If
tomorrow.
you attempt to do it...
So you can't stop that.
No, I'll ask Sosley to name you. So don't go there.
On the referral of these third supplementary estimates and the fiscal policy paper, it is an interesting coincidence that the subject I want to speak on is the same one that I was giving notice to ask questions earlier today, which was frustrating. Not the actual questions, just the notice I was giving. And I was prevented from giving notice. However, it is serendipitous that I have this opportunity to treat with some of those same issues. Because I've noticed, Mr. Speaker, that the amounts coming from the bauxite levy in each mentioned both in the fiscal policy paper and in the supplementary estimates have been continued dwindling over time. In fact, for one quarter, there was zero collected in that. And when you look at the impact of Hurricane Melissa on a constituency like South Manchester, there is a high overlap with the houses damaged and the communities that have endured bauxite mining for decades. In fact, when you go to the the poverty mapping that's available from Statin, you will see again there is a high correlation between those communities that have endured bauxite mining for decades and damage from Hurricane Melissa and the highest poverty rates in the parish. So this is why I found it important to be tabling some questions today about the impact of bauxite mining on southern Manchester, because this is an urgent matter for my constituents. Since I've been here this afternoon in Parliament, I've received messages from residents in St. Toulis who are trying to get an understanding from Jamalco, who are scheduled to start mining there tomorrow. What is the arrangements in terms of the common agreements, dust mitigation, compensation, resettlement, etc.? And because there is none, the company says they're just moving ahead, which is why it was so urgent for me to table some questions that the minister, I'm sure, would have answered earlier than the 21 days that the notice that I gave, because it can be done by agreement under the standing orders. The sector, Minister, we have to continue to monitor very closely, because their contribution to the fiscal is diminishing, and the environmental liabilities and the decimation of communities are going in the other direction. Those liabilities are rising, and we need in this parliament to facilitate real debate of the net contribution of these sectors and how, even as we plan for life after bauxite, but in the interim, how we regulate their impact on the negative impact in particular on our communities and ensure that there's some legacy left. That was the nature of the questions that I gave notice of today, properly gave notice of, and that this parliament refused to allow. And the residents of South Manchester will remember this. And I am sure all other residents who send us here to represent them and be the voice for the voiceless will be watching and making note of what happened here today. Thank you, Mr.
Really waiting to hear a response from the minister.
Speaker, just for completeness on a point of order, I believe that the member's assertion that he properly gave notice for the questions is false and is misleading the House. He now says he was not allowed to give notice. Both can't be true. So I have to record that the member did not properly give notice. That is all, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. You are correct. Minister.
All right, members, thank you for your many questions. The first one, as it relates to the Independent Fiscal Council, I think the question was the negative 5.3% over the period. That's a cumulative number. For that, the intermediate, right, the medium term, it was set out there. Right, it was set out. 20 fiscal year 2025 out to 26. It's like the next 4 years. Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Hold on. I don't want to give you the wrong thing. But I'll find it and come back to you. Number of years. All right. And your next question had to do with tabling of the report, right? So I messaged the commissioner, and he, in terms of whether or not it was tabled in Parliament, and he said no, he wouldn't send it to Parliament. The law only requires him to send it to me, and upon my request, which he has done. But I am prepared to bring to Parliament. There's a, yeah, I will make sure. Yep, no problem. No problem. Yep. All right. In terms of the debt to GDP, that was calculated prior to the announcement. However, within that, there is some of that financing in the current debt to GDP. All right, there's some in there. And remember, as I explained earlier on, just because you hear 6.7 billion, it does not mean that that is going to come onto the books of the government in one fell swoop, right? Right. So the projects associated with that have to be determined over time, and as you draw down, it will come onto the government's books. So you have control over it. It's not, like I said, it's not like going to the international markets to raise 500 million, and the day you go is the day you get it, it's the day gone to the books of the government. No. In a reasonable time, I will. What are some of the growth inducing? Well, that is why the Prime Minister created the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority. It's going to be created with powers to move faster so that we get some of the work done. You ask for a question in terms of CRIF. Well, not a question, you made a statement, and we acknowledge that. CRIF started in 2007, I believe so. Right, so as I said again, we will table the report from the Independent Fiscal Council. I'll also add what we got from the PIOJ so that you have a full sense of what those two entities were saying.
On a point of clarification, as I understand it, we're debating a motion. And I believe that motion is to approve an order, a ministerial order. Is that correct? The order suspending the fiscal rule. Is that what we're debating? No, what are we debating? What motion are we debating?
Yeah, so just for clarity, the order that we are debating is to table the supplementary. Clearly, it will be referred to PAAC, right? But that is the motion that was moved. Is just for the referral to table, which has to be referred, and also the fiscal policy paper, right? For both of them. So those two motions have been moved: fiscal policy paper and the supplementary estimates. We have not yet. We have not yet moved the motion in relation to the suspension of the fiscal rules. But that is the intention to do that today. It's done by affirmative resolution, by order. Yes. Well, so that's why we haven't done it as yet. I just allow the minister to finish.
All right, so that answers your question about the suspension. What would have informed the number of containerized homes? I know Minister Montague has been tasked with looking at different housing solutions. I would not want to answer that question, but I know that he has done a lot of work, spoken to a lot of different persons around that, and I am sure he will speak in due time, in due course, about this solution and how they will be distributed. I think the member from Portland asked about projection of 68% for debt to GDP. How do I compare that to the 41% wipeout of GDP? The 41% member is a measure of the damage relative to your GDP. It doesn't mean 41% of your GDP is wiped out, right? It's measurement versus the GDP for 2024. I gave you what our projection is for this fiscal year in which we are. And going into the next fiscal year, we're expecting the growth in GDP to resume. So I know there are some persons out there who made the mistake of just taking the 41%, piling it on top of the debt to GDP currently and said, oh my God, the world is falling. But that's not how it's done. That just tells me that there's a lack of understanding about the fiscal numbers, about how you calculate debt to GDP, what do you include and what do you not. So there's some work to be done there to help persons to understand that figure. The question about the loan to JPS, is the government prepared to lend the entire amount? I think that was your question. So the loan to JPS was $150 million US, so that they could accelerate the pace at which Jamaicans get their lights back, at which businesses get their light back. Madam Speaker, already I could say to you, you don't have to worry that the government is going to lend the entire amount, right?
What that mean?
Already our international partners have indicated that within that package that's announced, there is about 450 million for JPS.
So
and what that will do is allow for our loan of 150 million to be repaid back to us, so we get back the liquidity. It didn't happen last Tuesday. It's happened after that. There's a question, is it reasonable to proceed with the supplementary? Yes, the business of government must go on. We have to approve the spend for Melissa, right? The post-hurricane cleanup, reconstruction, that has to happen. The business of government must go on. EPOC, the question about EPOC, EPOC, Economic Program Oversight Committee. That committee sits within the Independent Fiscal Commission. It sits within there. It still has some of the same people on it. And I'm sure in time you will hear from them as well. The JPS loan, had a lot of more questions on that. In terms of the interest rate, it was reasonable interest rate for them, yes.
What number is that?
I think it was about 5.5%. So it was a very, very reasonable loan. It was because of the purpose for which it was lent, to accelerate the reconstruction, to make sure people in Western Jamaica get back their electricity. And then the other questions in terms of the value. Government. What do you mean, who's the lender? GOJ, Ministry of Finance. Yeah. So the question about the value of the assets, we don't have to answer that one. I just told you how the loan is going to be repaid. Right, and it's the Ministry of Finance. Has the loan been formally signed? I think they're in the finishing phase of that. Westmoreland Eastern, the rapid damage assessment. Who was that again? Oh yeah, about the quality of houses and so on. Remember, this is just a rapid damage assessment, as it says, to give the government a sense of what's the magnitude of the damage. And it was done by the World Bank in conjunction with IADB. Their report is available online. You can look at it, lots of figures in there that you can take a look at, lots of charts and so on. But I'm sure as we go along, further assessment will be done. And so it's not necessary to really critique that report. It happened within a very short period of time, using drone technology, using all the whiz-bang tools at our disposal now for this rapid assessment of damage. And so we want to thank the World Bank and the IDB for just jumping in and doing that. It has given us the direction in which we can move and move with alacrity to get restoration going again. What metric to value?
You have a point of order, member?
Yes. I think there was a misunderstanding of the point that was made.
Oh, clarification.
I was not criticizing the assessment that was done by the World Bank. To the contrary, I was saying that that may be so based on the assets that were present in the different parishes before the hurricane. Therefore, they were more valuable based on how the structures that were present in St. Elizabeth versus Westmoreland. And I was saying the impact of it. So you might have a greater dollar value to St. Elizabeth, but I was saying the impact of it. And if you look at JPS, when you look at JPS report as to the number of customers without electricity, 93% of Westmoreland, which is the highest in the country. And I was saying that in Eastern Westmoreland, 5,000 houses are totally flat. So it is in that context that I was making the point. It wasn't a critique of the World
Bank. Okay. The member asked about the metric to value the damage. And member, this is just the physical damage. If you recall, in my opening, I referred to the damage that was done to the psyche, the spirit of Jamaicans, that you can't measure that. We know that it has happened, and we know that we have to deal with that as well in terms of the mental health, wellness of our population that has gone through just the hardship associated with that hurricane. That's it, I think. Hold on. So, Madam Speaker, or yes, Madam Speaker, I now ask that the motion be approved.
The question is that the motions be approved. Those in favor? Those against, the ayes have it. Minister, could you please say when PAAC will meet to consider the third supplementary estimate?
Madam Speaker, the PAAC will meet tomorrow to consider the third supplementary estimates. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. House Leo.
Madam Speaker, we do have a few more items of business. I would like to now move to resume and conclude the debate on the Criminal Record Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Act, and then we have one more matter that we will treat with after that, after we conclude the debate.
If you're just joining us, welcome to the Colin Bell Show. We're live on Caribbean Radio HD. 97.9 HD for Caribbean Radio. Welcome to the Colin Bell Show. It's a pleasure joining you this evening on the big radio station. The big radio station over there in Florida. And it is rough listening to the minister. Hold on now. The minister never really answered the questions.
Member from Portland Eastern.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, I first wish to applaud you for even any consideration to such an amendment. It is one that is welcomed, I'm sure, from the population and from certain members that sit in this House who is inundated with requests for a second opportunity at a normal life. I wish to say, however, in terms of my contribution, that when it comes to crime in this country, we do know that there is mala prohibita, crimes by prohibition, and mala non se, which is the crimes of moral turpitude or serious crimes that sometimes when we think of crime, what we find is we just lump everybody together, and then there's a stigma that is attached to it that prevents many persons the opportunity to have gainful employment, especially in the security industry. Persons would have moved on with their lives from even minor crimes. And what you find is the requests for a police record and the employment usually cease at that moment. Now, I raise the fact that I note that many of the sections, starting with the First Amendment, 33A2, which is increasing the time, and we can lump them seriatim, deal with them in turn. I would say that I would have no objection to an increase, but to ask you, Minister, if there is any consideration as to appreciating that the threshold, the rehabilitation time I'm submitting to you is a little bit excessive. Equally, I would say at this point in time that when one looks at the capping, moving the period from 5 years to 10 years and capping it at 10 years, I would ask what informs the decision to stop at 10 years? And I would use, I have support in saying that certainly in England, and if we are to say that citizens in the UK, if they breathe the same air as us here in the Caribbean, then there must be a consideration of restoration of the life of a person who would have committed a crime after the rehabilitation time has passed. Now, we do have a robust schedule of offenses that I've seen you have also had suggested amendments. I'll deal with that.
So that's Isaac Buchanan on the floor in the parliament, and I want to just ask some people Could the other person do that? Tell her. Welcome to the Colin Bell Show. Let's get into the show. 876-804-7072. We've been listening to the finance minister in the parliament. We heard the prime minister earlier. And originally I had something planned where I wanted to bring on somebody from down at the west. Wanted to bring on this person to just give us an idea of what is happening down there in Westmoreland. So it's a link down at Westmoreland. Mohammed. See if we can talk to somebody in Westmoreland to find out what is happening down there, how the people are managing. We must talk to Ralston. We never have it planned this evening, but we must talk to Ralston based on what the minister has been saying. And when we listened to the prime minister earlier, somebody called me and said we have two finance ministers. We have a male finance minister and a female finance minister. Try just give me that number there, but that number did not talk, try. That number not talk at all. Let me try calling for a female number because we just want to get a sense of how the people are managing down there in central Westmoreland, eastern Westmoreland, and our southern Westmoreland. I try this. No, man, stay upon this, man. Me work with this because this is a work. Stay upon this. Hold on, don't move a muscle. Don't move a muscle, try. Let me talk to you upon this phone now. May I get you upon right now? Because sometime we switch and go try something where we never check on. So we're supposed to have Try upon the line. Try!
Yeah, what going on now?
What going on in Westmoreland?
I don't hear that.
What is happening in Westmoreland? How is the recovery coming on down there?
But people still a ball. People still not live no way. Shelter full same way.
Which shelter is that you're talking about?
You have one and two. Yeah, I don't hear that.
Which shelter you're talking about?
The one at Petersfield High School.
So you're saying a lot of people still at that shelter at Petersfield High School?
Yeah, a lot of people still there.
Oh, when you say a lot of people,
have most of them, more than 100 of them.
And they don't have anywhere to go?
No home to go back to.
So what? So why their homes were totally destroyed?
Yeah, man, flat out. Even one of them what they did in our hospital and now team house run off, blew over going on one river, and it's a big disaster.
And so you're saying that he's sick now and in the hospital?
No, I know, to be honest, I want to nail the joke him because he was trying to regain back his house and thing, and one nail joke him and chewing chopper with pressure and not pressure, sugar.
Yeah.
He end up in our hospital and in our hospital about 3 weeks now.
So that sound like tetanus?
Huh?
That sound like tetanus. Him never get no tetanus shot. So tell us the people who are not in the shelter who we see when we come check you, them house get destroyed, whole heap of damage to them house. How are those people coping now?
Well, some of them are trying to build back. Some of them are trying to repair their house. Some cover under chop hole in the same way as they can say. And some still out the door.
You're saying that there are people still outside?
Yeah.
When you say outside, try, what you really mean?
Outside, like, catch a people place, sleep in a car, sleep in a unfinished house and then something there. Still outside.
So when rain come out, them people they manage?
Why then shelter where they can get like a shelter if rain come at night, they still flood out.
So you're saying that there are people who are still being flooded out if it rains down there in Westmoreland?
Yeah. People still are flooded.
So
when the rain fall, all right. Yesterday to be exact, me go try to fix one house up for somebody.
Because it's still leaking.
Leak. It was leaking and then they have chap hole in Pani and thing. So then they have chap hole in and the chap hole in like it damage and so rainfall, no care what amount of rainfall, water come in. Be honest, and from the storm until now, not even me no go back to work. I just most volunteer me there, volunteer and I try to help people set speed.
So Olan, you're saying that nobody not really gone back to work. So how do people find food? They still have to be taking food from people who come help them?
Yeah. Yeah, you have some people who have gone back to work.
Yeah.
You have people who have gone back to work.
But
and you have some who still not gone back yet because there are some people when I see the close up, they don't want to so that work.
So,
and you have some people, I know some people, before you come up with some people then really feel like there are some people who really not have account and then something. To be honest with you.
They don't have no bank account or nothing to get no money, nobody can send nothing to them.
And I think this time now you know some people lifestyle.
So try. As it relates to the children, the water. No, let me go back to the waterway that run through your place there when we came down there. Is that water still running?
No. But it's a rainfall. If a rainfall for more than 2 hours, it come up, but by next day gone.
So down at the lane there where you show with the swamp, where you show we said the whole of the lane that it flood out when you look down there, a pure water we see down the road. Has that receded?
That water this morning a little bit receded. Tomorrow for a week and that water supposed to go.
So how does people get drinking water, Troy?
Water truck. Because I saw me I get water right now.
From the water truck?
Yeah, I saw me get drinking water right now. Water for cook water. Apart from buying bottled water, I get in bottled water out a water truck.
What is happening for electricity? Any progress with electricity?
Why? No progress in my era. No progress from South to Petersfield, no progress.
So have you seen
in a sub them there.
So have you seen the GPS people in your area yet?
Only clean up the road, like take out the light post and out the road. That's it.
But you don't see no light post start go up yet?
No light post don't start go up. No start put in place to get back light.
What about the elderly? Are they getting any special attention? People coming to see the elderly, doctor coming at the area and the nurse coming at the area. Are you seeing the government people in the area taking up names and all of that?
Me never see that around my side, be honest.
You never see
the other day, but I think over the weekend, about Saturday, I think some doctor did that on the ball ground in front of the high school where the shelter is. But me not really see no government people coming around my place.
So we're talking to
Troy.
Troy is from Shrewsbury Falls, Petersfield in Westmoreland. And you are saying, Troy, nobody no come take your name and your number, ask you what kind of damage you get yet.
Nothing.
And you not hear that from none of your friends. Nobody ask the people who are near you right now.
Nobody.
So Troy, you said nobody no come and say, did you get damage in the hurricane? What kind of damage you get? How much people living at your house?
One time, I see some people come and them try to use politics.
What do you mean by that?
Like, them a look for who votes for them to give things.
No, but I'm not talking about the give things yet. Me talk about taking your information to see if you need help on how the government will help you.
None of that. None of that.
If you're just joining us on Caribbean Radio 97.9 HD4, we're talking to Troy. Troy is from Petersfield down there in Westmoreland. We visited them on our second visit, brought some stuff for them. So we're just touching base back with them now, trying to find out what is happening, what is the progress down there in Westmoreland. And Troy is saying to us that to date, his name has not been collected. Nobody not check him out to find out what kind of damage happened to him in the hurricane and what kind of help they're going to give them, or just to get their information. And Troy, people are near you right now. Ask them if nobody collected for them information yet.
Hold on. Jimmy, come here.
Let me talk to Jenny. Put Jenny on the phone.
Yeah, man, come.
Because we want to know what is happening, and we are touch base pan the ground. Pan the ground down at Westmoreland with the right now people.
All right.
Jenny?
Hold on. See Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Hello.
Yeah, man. What go on, my brother? You're live on the radio and the TV right now, you know. What go on?
No, yeah, it's clear.
How you managing after the storm down there in Westmoreland?
No,
Him said, nah, hear me clear, try.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I hear you now.
Yeah, hear me now.
Yeah.
Did you get any damage in the storm?
Yes.
Did you get damage? Did your house or anything for you get mashed up in the storm? Have anybody come to you so far to get your name?
Nobody haven't come to me. Nobody haven't come to me, sir.
So your name and your TRN and your phone number not get taken up yet?
I haven't seen anyone, sir.
And which area you live in?
Say that again?
Which area you live?
The area where Johnny is living now. But then call Grandpa Lane off Shrewsbury Road, that's all.
Okay. All right. Let me talk to Johnny's. Put Johnny's on the phone. Let me talk to Johnny's too.
All right. I'll get Johnny's the phone.
Put Johnny's on the phone too.
Because I live next door to Johnny's, you know.
Yeah, man. So these pictures that you're seeing in the background, people, are from Petersfield. This is when we went to Petersfield to hand out some things and some care package and some clothes and some food. So these are Petersfield people you're looking at right now. And it is unbelievable. Unbelievable what Troy is saying to me. That nobody no come get them information yet. When we talk, hey Janice, how you doing? I think Janice up on the phone already. Somebody said my sister live in Central Westmoreland, and she said she saw some people from the government asking about damages. Yes, Janice, good evening. How you doing? Yes, Janice.
Good evening.
Welcome to Caribbean Radio 97.9 HD4, all the way in Florida.
Florida, huh?
Yeah, man, we want to find out if you had gotten any damages in the hurricane.
Well, I got damage, but I already fixed up my place.
You fix up your place. Have you seen any agent from the government come to take your name, your number, your TRN to find out what kind of damage happened to you and how you coping?
No, nobody come here.
Nobody not come to you yet?
No.
Wow. Have you reached out?
Huh?
Have you reached out to any government agency?
No.
And you don't reach out to nobody either?
No.
All right, Janice. Have you seen your member of parliament?
Pardon me?
Have you seen the member of parliament or your councillor yet?
No, I haven't seen anybody.
So your member of parliament not come in your area yet?
Well, if they come, I don't see them,
You don't see him neither. So nobody
I don't see.
Nobody not reach you yet.
No.
You have children, Janice?
No, I don't have any children.
Oh, you don't have any kids yet. All right, put back Troy on the phone for me there.
But I have a brother, that if affected in the hurricane,
Yes.
and see his house it wash away in the river.
Wash away.
And he have a little shop and the shop blow down flat.
So any government agency come to him yet?
No, because he's in the hospital right now.
Oh, you mean at the
because
hospital?
He have sugar and back to him.
Oh, I
So
feel.
he in the hospital from then.
Oh, so him in at the hospital we try just that tell me about.
Right.
Oh. All right, Janice. Let me talk back to Troy for a minute there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, man. So we're on the ground.
Some people.
We're on the ground in Westmoreland, people. Talking to people from Petersfield, Shrewsbury. See that on the screen?
Hello?
Yeah, Troy. So, Troy,
Yeah.
where your MP are going with? Where must say? You not see him yet?
Why? Me not see me no, me boss.
So,
Me a tell you the truth,
hold
you
on.
know.
You are saying that from the hurricane blow, you not see your MP yet?
I don't see him. I'm try call him, and me not see him. Me not hear from him.
Oh, yeah, sir.
The last time, more than 3 weeks. About 3 days after a hurricane now. About 3 days after a hurricane. Me text him, and like me try call him, and he said to me, say, in a parliament, he will call me later. Until today, me not see him, me not hear from him.
That no good. That no good. That no good at all,
Me
Troy.
say, until today, me not see, me not hear from him.
When we came down there, Troy. Go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
I'm even send one message to him and say, it look bad to know, say, boy, based on how I work for Uno and what I do. I'm in an accident with the council, I'm in 100. I'm going to try to reach out to the MP until today. Him not try taking phone and call me say, here, what my problem or what go on to me or what me I say. He never try to find out.
And we're talking about the MP for Central Westmoreland, Dwayne Vaz, which is a PNP member of Parliament. And you say you not see him from the hurricane, you know.
Me not see him.
One talk.
Me not see him, me not hear from him.
Try. When we came down there, we drove past a pasture with about half dozen dead cows. What really happened to them? Were they buried or burned, or them they just stayed there till?
Them burn.
Oh, they came and burned them?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my brother, keep strong. And I hope some, I say keep strong, and I hope some better help soon reach you.
Yeah, man. I hope that.
All right, big up yourself. When you can't get food for buy now, when we came down there, you said we couldn't get no food for buy.
Yeah, we can't get food for buy now.
Things better. All right.
Yeah, things a little bit better.
All right.
You can't get everything for buy, but you can't get certain things to buy, but certain things are there. No yam, no certain things are there.
Okay. And you're saying that the people who are still in the shelter at Petersfield is high school or primary? High school?
High school.
Petersfield High School.
I think some is at the primary school too.
And you're saying that's over 100 people when I have no house for going in.
Still at the high school.
All right, my brother. Big up yourself.
Yeah.
Leave it there. You hear from the ground. We don't just talk what we feel. We go down there, go look for ourselves. And we have links down there where we call and find out what is happening. Isaac is still on the floor in the parliament.
Visit of the third schedule more robustly.
I don't know if the other person could have did do that. But one thing to another. The Minister of Finance responding to a question from Isaac. I want to play the question and I'm going to try if Ralston available. We never planned this, but I'm going to call him. Hold on. The Christopher said, good night, Colin Bell. The greatest thing is transparency and oversight in how billions of borrowed money is spent or will be spent. The GLP is not trustworthy
when it comes to spending taxpayers' money. Colin, you don't have any phone number for Vaz. Doing Vaz, yes, I have him number, but I guess him in the parliament now. And I tell you something, I've sent him message because I try to get him for the program, but it kind of difficult to get them. Somebody said Dwayne Vaz look like him overload. So I want to go back to the minister. Listen to this.
About projection of 68% for debt to GDP. How do I compare that to the 41% wipeout of GDP? The 41% member is a measure of the damage relative to your GDP. It doesn't mean 41% of your GDP is wiped out, right? It's measurement versus the GDP for 2024. I gave you what our projection is for this fiscal year in which we are, and going into the next fiscal year, we're expecting the growth in GDP to resume. So I know there are some persons out there who made the mistake of just taking the 41%, piling it on top of the debt to GDP currently and said, oh my God, the world is falling. But that's not how it's done.
Raleigh, you heard the minister's answer to Isaac's question about the 41%? What say you?
I'm saying that the minister is talking nonsense. The minister needs to tell the country then, because there's only one universal way of calculating debt to GDP. It is your debt over nominal GDP. Nominal GDP means GDP before adjustment for inflation and multiply by 100. So here's the question that minister needs to answer now. What level of GDP and what level of debt she used to calculate the debt to GDP ratio? She hasn't answered the question.
But
next question that you need to answer. How is it that you are going to be taking on 1.1 trillion more in debt over the next 3 years, and GDP is going to stagnate based on our own calculation, 1 to 2%, and your debt to GDP is going to come down? Minister talking nonsense. So she needs to tell the Jamaican people what level of GDP and what level of debt she used to calculate the debt to GDP ratio.
Well, Mark Golden asked her if she had calculated before the loan. And then she says some of the loan in height. What can go so?
Well, that is nonsense, and that is why she never tabled it in the fiscal policy paper, because she knows that she's talking nonsense. Because if you work with the calculation and say that them say 41% of GDP gone, last year's GDP, with a hurricane, then there's no way she could come to 68%. Additionally, going forward, as Mark said, if we made the assumption that they are going to draw down the money from the IMF equally and the World Bank and the MFI in 3 years' time equally, $3.6 billion. So that is like $1.2 billion per annum. Yeah. If you add that to the current debt burden, the burden would gone up to about $2.4 trillion.
Yes.
And if GDP is going to stagnate at 1%, how she get the debt to GDP ratio falling over the medium term while you're borrowing more and you're stagnating?
Plus your GDP itself gone down.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making.
I don't understand it. And then listen.
We know the minister is never. Hold on. We know the minister is never good at the figures, you know. It is the same minister who told us when we were doing the Petro-Carib, and when we said Petro-Carib and said I was actively involved as Peter Phillips' right-hand man.
Yes.
She said that was a bad thing. Me send you newspaper clippings about that already.
Yes.
And that is what helped us to bring down the debt to GDP ratio. When they came up with a full $1.5 million tax plan, I told them that it would cost $32 billion. She said it would cost nothing.
Yes,
This
I
is the
remember
same
that.
minister who come with it and tell us if them reduce the income tax rate from 25% to 15%, it would only cost $25 billion. And then the next year, them have to change it. So she's never accurate with figures yet.
But Raleigh, listen to this response, because this is what boggles my mind. Listen this. Listen.
About projection of 68% for debt to GDP. How do I compare that to the 41% wipeout of GDP? The 41% member is a measure of the damage relative to your GDP. It doesn't mean 41% of your GDP is wiped out, right? It's measurement versus the GDP for 2024. I gave you what our projection is for this fiscal year in which we are. And going into the next fiscal year, we're expecting the growth in GDP to resume. So I know there are some persons out there who made the mistake of just taking the 41%, piling it on top of the debt to GDP currently and said, oh my God, the world is falling. But that's not how it's done. That just tells me that there's a lack of understanding about the fiscal numbers, about how you calculate debt to GDP, what do you include and what do you not. So there's some work to be done there to help persons to understand that figure.
Are you sure true word, Pan Raleigh?
Yeah, man, we know that.
So, explain to the listeners, Raleigh, how it is done before we go to the GPS loan. Because I don't know if you hear what she said about GPS.
That is simple. That is why I'm saying to the minister, tell the country what level of GDP and what level of debt she used to calculate the ratio. So if she's saying that the damage is just a comparative analysis in relation to last year's GDP, tell the country what GDP number and what debt number she used to calculate the ratio that she said now at 68%, what debt ratio and GDP ratio she used to calculate the 64%, the 66% for next year, and what debt to GDP ratio she used to calculate the 64% for 27-28.
So if we're reasoning this thing rationally, Raleigh, if the country had values of $3.3 trillion on the 27th of October, Hurricane Melissa came on the 28th and created extensive damage. So much so that the World Bank and IDB them said the damage is $8.8 billion, equivalent to 41% of GDP. It means then, from my little crayfish brain, it tells me that if you did have all this value, and
that value has been wiped out,
41% had gone. Just like a man where had a house, a car, and a bar pan a piece of property. Hurricane Melissa come. The house value $3 million. The bar value 2, that's $5 million. And the car value 2, that's $7 million. Hurricane Melissa came the Tuesday and mash up all of that. Car wash away, house blow away. And him not have nothing left. Can he just say, well, the estimate of my damage is just a measure of the $7 million when we did value before the hurricane come?
Rubbish, shut up, because that gone, that has been wiped out.
Exactly.
It's not a theoretical thing.
But that's what she tell Isaac, that, listen man, this is just a measure. It no mean, because she said it, you know. She said it no mean say the 41% wipe out.
Yeah, and that's what I tell you, say, she don't know what she's saying. And that is why we are saying, and tell her that she can easily answer the question by saying what level of GDP she used and what level of debt.
Me God. Me never
because remember, you know, what make it even worse is not paper that has been wiped out, you know. The bulk of the damage have to do with infrastructure, physical things, houses, yeah, roads, bridges, yeah, physical things that you have to replace.
And she's giving us this crap. Me not understand that.
Well, she always gives crap.
But here the next thing now, Raleigh. Isaac Buchanan asked her if the government is willing to lend JPS all of the money. People, listen to this. Listen to what she said about JPS.
The question about the loan to JPS, is the government prepared to lend the entire amount? I think that was your question. So the loan to JPS was 150 million US dollars so that they could accelerate the pace at which Jamaicans get their lights back, at which businesses get their light back. Madam Speaker, already I could say to you, you don't have to worry that the government is going to lend the entire amount, right? Already our international partners have indicated that within that package that's announced, there is about 450 million for JPS. And what that will do is allow for our loan of 150 million to be repaid back to us, so we get back the liquidity. It didn't happen last Tuesday. It's happened after that.
Hold on now, Raleigh. $450 million to JPS.
That's what I told the public today, that in that money that they are getting from the multilaterals is money from JPS. So we are ending up putting all of the money because we're borrowing that money from the multilateral agency.
Right.
It's
so
not giving, they're giving us this.
So this is the question. She said we all get back our $150 million out of that $400 million there. Who is really borrowing? So JPS is borrowing that money from IMF, from the multilaterals, or is we borrowing the money?
The government of Jamaica, the people of Jamaica is putting up the whole of the money. The minister is trying to obfuscate.
But she say we not have to worry. The government now going to lend JPS all that money.
Yeah, but come on, Colin. The government is borrowing that money from the multilateral system. In that money that they are borrowing from the multilateral system, 450 million is for JPS. And then them just take back the 150 million. So the government is putting up the entire 350 million for JPS.
So what kind of is that meant to confuse people?
Yeah, man.
No, man. Hold on, Raleigh, man. Listen this again, people.
Let me hear that clear.
Listen again.
The people from this
the question about the loan to JPS, is the government prepared to lend the entire amount? I think that was your question.
Listen what she said.
The loan to JPS was 150 million US dollars so that they could accelerate the pace at which Jamaicans get their lights back, at which businesses get their light back. Madam Speaker, already I could say to you, you don't have to worry that the government is going to lend the entire amount, right? Already our international partners have indicated that within that package that's announced, there is about 450 million for JPS. And what that will do is allow for our loan of 150 million to be repaid back to us, so we get back the liquidity.
Isn't that bamboozle it? It should just try bamboozle with.
No, not bamboozle. Maybe to the layman, but to people like us, it's not bamboozle. So all them I say, they more need to put up the 150 million from the fiscal account. The money will come out of the money that they borrow from the multilateral agency.
But she don't make it sound so, Raleigh.
Yeah, but we are saying we can decide for that because we are smarter than her.
But the lady tell the people them say, you don't have to worry. we now have to lend JPS the money. We partners are going to lend them. Is it JPS they lending the money or they lending the money to the government
the money
of
is being lent
Jamaica?
to the government of Jamaica, Colin.
And then the government will lend JPS 450 million. It's not even 350 million them all lend them now. It's 450.
No, 450 million. Yeah.
Tell her!
So that's an upgrade of the damage. Yeah. So it's a simply right and left hand transaction. So the 150 that we saw that were going from the fiscal account, we not have a bother with it because the money we get from the World Bank, we're lending the money out of it. Simple. We tell people inside that happen from day one.
But if you listen to your rally and a simple man,
no,
go understand that.
That is why we are here to break it down for the simple man. Why think you have people like we?
Jesus Christ.
That's our job, to break it down for the simple man. Yeah? And if you notice, they're not getting a position of follow-up questions and say, oh, PSC, hide them, hide her. The fact of the matter is that we are getting JPS 450 million, the people of Jamaica.
Whoa.
Yep. Which means now, Colin, that them not planning to extend the contract beyond the 2-year period. Simple.
So if they don't extend the contract, Raleigh, who are going to run JPS? The government?
Well, that's the question that they need to tell us. Whether they have somebody else to buy it or them are going to run it.
But me tell you that already in a rally, so they have somebody to buy JPS, you know.
Who them have? We should tell me a reputable investor international, you know, who will buy JPS based on the way the government deal with JPS and based on the current economic situation in Jamaica.
The argument on the ground is that the man will get back the man in visa is in energy and he will buy JPS. No, but tell me, Raleigh, it don't look funny to you.
We have a little humor, but yeah, but him on a reputable energy man, so we can expect what will happen. Yep.
But it don't look funny to you, Raleigh, for the country. I got foot a bill where we don't have a foot. We don't have a foot JPS bill. If we just
that's the point.
Deal with the negotiation
in a responsible way. That's the point I'm making to you, sir. Yeah, we are here to decipher these things for the public, you know. So what may I say to you, sir? Yeah, GDP is the total market value of all final goods and services produced within a particular period.
Yes.
So it's not just a paper thing, a thing where you can physically touch. So if you lose 41% of that, you must have a problem. Additionally, if the part of the loan that you borrow from the man then, you give the man them 450 million out of it. You are lending them the money, yeah? Because I'm not them go borrow the money.
But the
IMF and the World Bank tell us that the request was made by Prime Minister Andrew Brogard Holness.
And you heard the Prime Minister today in the Parliament said that he had a meeting with the IMF this morning. He never said the Minister of Finance was there.
No.
He
but
no mention she.
The Prime Minister is the real Minister of Finance. The Prime Minister not trust the Minister of Finance. You see how fast they make her wrap up until I say, oh, make sure you got PAC, man. Give her a break. Hey, man, the Prime Minister not rate the Finance Minister. He's not the Finance Minister. And that is why officially, people who disbelieve in the IMF document, them say it's the Prime Minister who approached them.
Yes.
Yep.
The Prime Minister said he did it while he was at COP22.
Yep.
And you can see that the Finance Minister was out of her depth this evening.
Man, shaky. You're foolish to talk. Shaky. And she try to take on a man like me. The worst thing that's done. Yep.
No, but before I let you go, Raleigh, me have to make the people listen again.
Yeah, man.
Listen to the Finance Minister. Listen.
About projection of 68% for debt to GDP. How do I compare that to the 41% wipeout of GDP? The 41% member is a measure of the damage relative to your GDP.
It's a measure of the damage relative to your GDP.
But you know what they say, Charlie used the word wiped out. So what was wiped out? What was wiped out? She used the term wiped out. So what was wiped out?
Pull it up again. Pull it up again. Because one of the people in here, we now make up this, you know. Listen what the minister say.
Yeah.
About projection of 68% for debt to GDP. how do I compare that to the 41% wipeout of GDP? The 41%, member, is a measure of the damage relative to your GDP.
Right.
It doesn't mean 41% of your GDP is wiped out, right? It's measurement versus the GDP for 2024.
So that means the damage we get in the hurricane no real then. It no cost with no money then.
No, it's not really. It's a paper damage. I noticed she used the word wiped out first and then she come back and say it was a wiped out. Just say she confused me. Stupidity, man. Larry Summers did not say it's a monumental exercise in futility and stupidity. He also say that many people went to Harvard who couldn't pass an elementary economics class. It looked like she was one of them.
No. Really?
Wiped out, then not wiped out. So it's a paper damage, yeah? No house no blow down, no bridge no blow down, no economic value no loss. You see, I rubbish that.
But
so
really,
all them man who lose them business, go and tell them say a paper, no? Yeah?
No,
all them people who don't live in a house now, go and tell them say a paper damage, no?
But that's my argument, Ralston, man. The lady say it's just a measure.
Again for the people.
It not really.
Again for the,
well, yeah, man.
Again for the people. Wipe out and not wipe out.
Listen,
wipe out and not wipe out.
Listen, people, listen.
About projection of 68% for debt to GDP. How do I compare that to the 41% wipeout of GDP? The 41%, member, is a measure of the damage relative to your GDP. It doesn't mean 41% of your GDP is wiped out, right? It's measurement versus the GDP for 2024. I gave you what our projection is for this fiscal year in which we are, and going into the next fiscal year, we're expecting the growth in GDP to resume. So I know there are some persons out there who made the mistake of just taking the 41%, piling it on top of the debt to GDP currently and said, oh my God, the world is falling. But that's not how it's done. That just tells me that there's a lack of understanding about the fiscal numbers, about how you calculate debt to GDP, what do you include and what do you not. So there's some work to be done there to help persons to understand that figure.
So, Raleigh, income from tourism is how much for the year?
1.76 billion last year.
1.76 billion last year, and it was projected to be what this year?
About 2 billion net.
About 2 billion. And the financial year ends March, right?
Yeah, man.
Will
and
that
the winter tourism season will start. Most of the hotels them say September next year and May of next year.
The question I want to ask you, will that projection hold? That 2 billion?
Hold, and the hotel man them say they now fix back them place until next year. Get destroyed and mash up. What them they represent? Paper?
No, that's why I go to the tourism sector in a rally. Because obviously, basically, what she has said, listen, man, that is just a number. The tourism thing I got all same way. Because that means the GDP not touch. We don't lose nothing. This I got all. No watching number, it's just a measurement.
Foolishness. But she herself used wipeout and said it was wipeout.
Yeah, and then she said, no, it's no wipeout. Just
so a wipeout something and still have it. I'll explain that to me.
Well,
so wipeout something and still have it.
Well, we can look out for the trolls them tonight. We must hear them now.
Yeah,
because
so the man them would have them business and everything, wash around Ghana, see and them thing there. It's a wipeout.
Let me ask you this. What is the value of the company we own Mega Mart now? Because them biggest store done. Wipe out. What
right.
is?
And then
do they still have the same value that they had before the hurricane?
They can't. And
when they lost $1 billion?
Yeah, so let me address that. So the minister said some people need to understand about GDP. Now tell the minister, say you need to read Professor Cosnet and understand about GDP. Because GDP is the total market value of all final goods and services produced during a particular period.
Yes.
So all them values that we get wiped out, all them business that were locked down, all them house there.
All of the farm them.
Yeah, all them farm there. All them JPS. Why need 450 million for JPS if nothing never happened?
This is madness.
If nothing ever happened, you don't need the money for JPS.
This is madness.
Rubbish attack here.
How she come with that?
Well,
it's just a major. Yes, it is a major. But it's a major to tell you how much you lose, what the damage caused you.
Yep.
So you must know, you have a minus that, because you don't have that again,
that's the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making. So all of the people who get poorer because them lose their business and seek help. All them people where the entity of them are carry things go give them thing there. Them not lose value.
No.
So why them need things if them not lose value? You know what I'm mad man that.
Brother. Then one more before you go rally, we have to play this again. We have to play this. People, me just want to listen, and reason out this thing here. Hear what the minister say about the loan to JPS now.
The question about the loan to JPS, is the government prepared to lend the entire amount? I think that was your question.
Yes.
So the loan to JPS was $150 million US, so that they could accelerate the pace at which Jamaicans get their lights back, which businesses get their light back. Madam Speaker, already I can say to you, you don't have to worry that the government is going to lend the entire amount, right? Already our international partners have indicated. Already I can say to you, you don't have to worry that the government is going to lend the entire amount, right? Already our international partners have indicated that within that package that's announced, there is about $450 million for JPS. And what that will do is allow for our loan of $150 million to be repaid back to us, so we get back the liquidity.
Minister, the prefix re means back. So if you say repay, you have to say repay back. Rally.
All them simple something then.
Rally.
Colin, yeah man, yeah, yeah.
The lady say, you don't have to worry. The government now have to lend JPS the money. And then the lady say, it in the package from the multilaterals.
So you see how she upside down and confusing. Yeah, because we are borrowing the package from the multilaterals and part of it going to JPS. So it is we, the people of Jamaica, is funding JPS, and we're going to be funding it with $450 million rather than the $350 million. Yeah, so the net amount is $300 million.
Yep. Da, dee. Da, da,
oh, what a tangled web we weave when we first try to deceive. That a one.
That a one. Rally?
Yep.
How this look? How we are going to pay back this money?
That is what I said, because she herself so only have to grow at 1% over the medium term. So me I tell you our presentation confusing.
She's gonna be at the PAC tomorrow. Is she going to be there?
That them say. Remember the original projection before the hurricane and before we borrowed this money was 1% over the medium term.
Yes.
That projection still remains. Yeah. Yet the debt to GDP will come down. You see how confused she is.
Hold on. She mentioned growth projection. She mentioned inflation. You remember those numbers that she gave?
Yeah, man. She said we're going to grow between 1 and 2% and inflation will average 5%.
Until what? 2030 or 2029?
Yeah, 2029. Yep.
But she not tell you about the growth strategy, and the Prime Minister tell you say them have shovel-ready projects.
She said we still have to grow by 1%, which was the original projection. So it means that there's no new strategy. Colin, reading between the lines, man. The original budget projection was 1% per annum for the next 5 years. She said she still maintain that.
The Prime Minister now, you listen to the Prime Minister?
Yeah, man, we listen to the two of them, man.
Him say there are some shovel-ready projects for growth, but they have not been able to tell us the name of those projects.
Yeah, man, we need to know. We need to know.
And obviously, like we said yesterday, the fine print of this deal has not yet been sorted out.
Let me not tell you that, man. Yeah, so we need to hear that. Yeah, what are the interest rates? What are the tenures? All those things we need to know. What are the conditions in terms of the investment projects? What benefits we are going to give to the foreign investors in relation to our local investors? The devil is in the details.
And then, Raleigh, she say the loan to JPS is at 5%. One of the questions should have been asked if JPS get the money already. Because she said 5.5%, but 5.5%. Well, I guess she might have a point because we still lend JPS.
Yeah, we are lending JPS the money, but I'm saying to you that the man who control JPS could I get money at 3 and 4%, could I get lower cost money.
If we had given them the extended time.
Yeah. So it is clear now that them take a decision that them now give the man the extended time. That's a clear decision now.
Raleigh, little more.
All right, brother. Bless you.
I guess you have a lot on your plate tomorrow morning.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Remember, people, listen to Ralston I'm on Real Business tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock on Power 106 FM. You can download the app and listen to it wherever you are. This is madness. Yeah? Madness. The finance minister come talk today. So, we are telling you right now, that is pure garbage. So you can jump out who want jump out. But let me take some calls. 876-804-7072. What set of rubbish? What a son who are you from, Obi? Me mother, me reaters. No, sir. Me never hear this yet. The lady says just a measurement. It's just a measurement. So we don't really lose that 41% that the World Bank are talk about. I tell you people, this is a serious set of argument laid down by the Minister of Finance today in the Parliament. We listen to the Prime Minister, and as we say, the Prime Minister spoke first, sounded like the Minister. And then came the Minister of Finance telling us that we're going to get back with 150 million from JPS. Because we going to lend JPS $450 million. So the question that was asked to the minister should have just said yes. The government will be lending JPS all of the money. All the money. Make this go viral. The Jamaican government will be lending JPS $450 million US. And you might check it and realize said that look like about $70 billion. I wonder if I can do a quick calculation. I go and do a quick calculation. So it's 400. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 400 million. Or 450. Yeah, 450. Hold on. I could go back and listen to the minister. I could listen back to the minister.
The question about the loan to JPS, is the government prepared to lend the entire amount? I think that was your question. So the loan to JPS was 150 million US dollars so that they could accelerate the pace at which Jamaicans get their lights back, which businesses get their light back. Madam Speaker, already I could say to you, you don't have to worry that the government is going to lend the entire amount, right? Already our international partners have indicated that within that package that's announced, there is about 450 million for JPS. And
450 million, you know how much that? 72.5 billion. Choke me. 72.5 billion dollars. The Jamaican government will lend JPS. Nobody listen to rubbish where the minister talk. That package that is coming from the multilaterals is a loan to the government of Jamaica. So if 415 if JPS is we a stand it. What favor I'll take people for? Hey. This is the Colin Bell Show. We're live on Caribbean Radio 97.9 HD4, covering most of Florida. Palm Beach, good evening to you. Lauderhill, good evening to you. Laugh and Prayers is going to be December 6th. Make certain to check it out. Laugh and Praise. It's going to be December 6th. It's a Caribbean radio event. And then there's one with Luciana too. And then you have another one, Laugh and Praise also, is on the 7th of December. We're trying to get OB. Reverend Sento, big up yourself. We're trying to get OB because this kind of argument by the finance minister. In fact, Ralston said is the second worst finance minister. Only second to Faggy Mullins. Yeah? And JPS will walk away after 2 years. Yes. But the government is behaving like them have somebody ready to buy JPS. They sound like them have somebody ready to buy JPS, my people. What is happening around here? What is happening? Lord, give us strength. That's going to be December 13. Awaken Church. Saturday, December 13. Luciana going to be on that one. It's a Caribbean HD event. To check them out. So, my people, we are looking at these maths. Somebody said in minister work voodoo maths. Real voodoo maths. Mr. Bell, are you noticing that this government is not prepared for operating and governing? Do you see that it's like they are just waiting? It's just going to the flow. It is just going with the flow across T's and dotted I's after the fact. It's sad though. It's sad that our Minister of Finance is telling us that don't worry, the government not going to lend no money to JPS. And when we look at this whole thing, we see where the government is lending JPS all the money. Somebody said, good evening, Colin. Dwayne Vaz was in Petersfield and Galloway. When? Because my people in my Petersfield said them not to Dwayne Vaz. Dead with laugh. Let me tell you no. Oh, brother, I was trying to get Al Edwards this evening to get his perspective on what is happening with the Jamaican economy. Conrad O'Brien.
Hey, hi, Colin. Well, how you doing?
The people them a call for you,
Well,
so them say them want to hear your views on Faval Voodoo Mats.
I'm live?
Yes, man, definitely. For you see me call you from that number, I think you know so that number is the live number.
I imagine. Boy, Colin, you know, I must tell you that I really can't fathom, because is one way I know that you basically work out the debt to GDP ratio.
Yes.
You know, and by basically extrapolate that from the nominal, the debt there from the nominal GDP, and you will arrive at what is there. So that's my thing. And until the minister can give us further and better particulars, then I hold sway to our original mathematics, which at this time we believe is quite solid. You know, I must tell you that I sent them a few messages to the minister while she was in Parliament. You know, I am hoping that she will respond to me. I continue to make my pledge and plea for the goodly minister to speak with me. Favor know me like her. I just want information.
Wobby.
So,
Wobby.
yeah.
Somebody in the chat room say, I think it is the mayor of Port Antonio that work out that GDP figure for Faval.
well, you know if I him, everything go buzzer. And as we talk about Portland, sorry, Colin, as we talk about Portland, let me pause to commend attorney at law and, of course, member of parliament for Eastern Portland, Isaac Buchanan. You know, I think his question in the House this afternoon into evening was quite pointed.
Yes.
And I believe that the minister have not answered the question. For example, Isaac put it very pointed and blunt to the minister to ask about alternate to the concrete house versus black and steel or concrete. I think
she not answer that none at all.
She basically go around that. She don't even mention that one. And of course, Isaac did ask her the question about the debt to GDP ratio as well, and you know she gave that fuzzy what appeared to be very, very fuzzy man. Uh-huh.
I want to play this again and you explain it for my listeners them and tell them what it means. Because I don't understand it. And it don't sound like Raleigh understanding either. Listen and tell the people what this means.
About projection of 68% for debt to GDP. How do I compare that to the 41% wipeout of GDP? The 41% member is a measure of the damage relative to your GDP. It doesn't mean 41% of your GDP is wiped out, right? It's measurement versus the GDP for 2024. I gave you what our projection is for this fiscal year in which we are. And going into the next fiscal year, we're expecting the growth in GDP to resume. So I know There are some persons out there who made the mistake of just taking the 41%, piling it on top of the debt to GDP currently and said, oh my God, the world is falling. But that's not how it's done. That just tells me that there's a lack of understanding about the fiscal numbers, about how you calculate debt to GDP, what do you include and what do you not. So there's some work to be done there to help persons to understand that figure.
Explain that, Obi. What she mean?
I don't know, really. I don't know, Colin, because as far as I'm concerned, there's what we call the nominal GDP, which is the calculation of all goods and services, etc. And if you lose 41% of that, there's nothing else. And as far as I'm concerned, I am not versed as Ralston, but certainly mean that it's only one way you calculate debt to GDP ratio. And if you lose 41% of your debt, of your GDP, certainly that has to count for something. As a matter of fact, when you listen to the minister, Colin, it sounds as if we're better off now than before. Before Melissa.
There you go. And it sound like we don't lose. It sound like we don't lose nothing to Melissa with GDP was not touched.
No, and if you notice, the minister is also, in my humble opinion, without any disrespect, I think the minister is confusing herself, because the minister, on one hand, said, listen, we're going to grow, to recover, and at the same time, the minister is saying that what we lost does not account for a massive, precipitous drop in our debt to GDP ratio. And remember now, Colin, that we are also borrowing a whole lot of money, and when you compound all of those things, it must count for something.
That part I can understand when she said we're not taking all of the loan at one time, so you can't pile that on it. That is a fact.
No, and that's understood. That's understood.
Right.
That's
so you're going to take some this year,
what,
some next year, and even today, them couldn't tell us how much them will take when. So I understand that part.
And Colin, with all due respect, that part there, a grade six part, because the truth of the matter is that if you go and get something, you won't put it on. You won't put it on until it come in. So each year, I remember now, this is over a 3-year period.
Yes.
So it's by way of us drawing down each tranche, then it will basically be added.
Yes.
So, I'm happy that she explained, because we can't take anything for granted that our people understand everything. So it's her duty to explain, and I commend her.
But those of us who are in the business, we understand that, because the deal says over 3 years. But when she got tell we say no, because the wiping out of the 41% happened within a 12 hours period. That happened, it took place. So Favor sound like I was listening to 2 teachers on Beyond the Headline one evening, and they were saying that some of their students are saying to them in class that what they are seeing on video that happened on our West is AI, it's not real. So it seems like Favor think what happened on our West are AI, it's not real.
Yes, and so the truth is now, Colin, and I agree with you. So what Favor, Minister Williams is saying, I think we need much more meat on the bone from her. Is either she really made a solid mistake, because if you listen to the PM, the PM was actually saying something different from what Favor is saying, The PM said something different from what Favor. The PM indeed believed that, we have that kind of wipeout and so on. I don't know, but how could Favor come to the parliament with this math? Because I believe that this is something that, although she's the line minister, that will carry, but this must be something that will be worked out with the technocrats and so on. As a matter of fact, I believe that even the PIOJ is in for some questioning because they certainly would have to do some of the work for the minister
Your background
to come
very
and make
noisy,
a
Obi.
presentation today. Huh?
Your background very noisy. Your background very noisy.
Because I am not. Hold on. Let me see if it's the fan.
There's one. No man, I hear like some
Better?
radio or something else playing in the background. There's
No,
one more
I don't
thing
know.
that I wanted to weigh in on before you go. Is the question about the JPS loan. And the minister said that Jamaicans don't have to worry. We're not going to lend them all the money. The money, there's $450 million coming in the package that we are borrowing. How come on we are lending them the money?
So therefore, if we because all of that now, although it's not coming out of the Jamaican coffer as it relates to local money that we have, but that would form a part of our debt.
It is not.
That would form a part of our debt. So
listen what she said.
In other words,
listen to her,
Jamaica is really on.
Listen what she said. Listen to her.
The question about the loan to JPS, is the government prepared to lend the entire amount? I think that was your question. So the loan to JPS was $150 million US, so that they could accelerate the pace at which Jamaicans get their lights back, at which businesses get their light back. Madam Speaker, already I can say to you, you don't have to worry that the government is going to lend the entire amount, right? Already our international partners have indicated that within that package that's announced, there is about $450 million for JPS. And what that will do is allow for our loan of $150 million to be repaid back to us, so we get back the liquidity. It didn't happen last Tuesday.
You hear that, Obi?
Yeah, but exactly, I don't understand what the minister is saying, because here it is. Is it that 450 million that she talk about, is it that is going to be extrapolated, taken out of the money, and that goes directly to JPS, and that would be minus from what we are getting? Or is it a part of the loan that the GOJ, the government of Jamaica, which the people of Jamaica will have to repay, come in, and then we know giving JPS that slice out of it? Because if that is so, certainly it is us who are lending the JPS all of the money, Colin.
But JPS can't get the money for borrow OB. Maybe remember I said JPS now have security of 10 years, you know. Nobody now lend you money for 2 years.
That is it. That is it.
And
so
she said it's coming out of the package that we are getting.
So what I would have expected the minister to say, Colin, is that, listen, we have now negotiated the amount that JPS need in the package that we are getting. So we are now basically underwriting the entire $450 million.
Of course, that's what it is.
For JPS.
That's what it is.
That is it. And remember, at one point we were hearing 350. Now we're hearing 450. So what? An additional 100 million gone onto it?
Those are questions you have to ask tomorrow, Conrad O'Brien. We're going to run.
I will, Colin. And, you know, I must say that I was quite impressed with the questions or the intervention that came in from the opposition. And I want you see, Colin, I give credit where credit is due. You know, I will take on anybody, but when they deserve credit, I'll give them. Angela Brownburg was quite good this afternoon.
Yeah,
I think she asked some sharp questions, and she is unafraid. She's unafraid. I give that to her. And of course, what can I say? about opposition leader Mark Golden, a man who just know his way around the parliament.
Yeah, man, solid.
And cool and deadly, not with a whole heap of bravado and so on, but quite firm. And I really love Mark that I said he was measured but very, very firm. Measured but firm. And I think the opposition really scored big this afternoon into evening for the people of Jamaica in the parliament. But Colin, in closing, Colin, I believe that some changes need to be made into the parliament. Especially in time like these, because I believe that if it means that they were supposed to stay there until 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock tonight, or into tomorrow morning, some deeper probing really needed in the thing, because I believe that, all of these questions that were asked of the minister, where she either give a little roundabout answer, she don't answer some of them at all. She should be compelled to answer the question. So if it means that a member going to have to stand up on his or her feet 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 times to get full clarity. Because remember, Colin, this is the people's house. We have 63 of us there. And mark my word, I said 63 of us there.
Yes.
So because the whole 3 million, we couldn't do that.
Anyway, Obi, we have to run. We have to run. Give thanks. We'll talk tomorrow.
Blessings, my brother.
Yeah, man. People, it is serious when people are trying to deceive and trying to hide the truth from the youth. We can't do that. The truth must be revealed. And that's why we come here and we ask the Almighty God to intervene every time and ensure that we speak the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Ralston Hyman is going to be on Real Business tomorrow morning, Power 106 FM. Big him up. Thanks for joining us, Ralston. We want to thank Troy down at Westmoreland for talking to us and telling us exactly what is happening on the ground. And that's something that we're going to be doing constantly, touching base with people on the ground to find out exactly what is happening in their neck of the woods. And I see some people are talking about GDP, and one man I say we never lose 41% of the GDP is 41% damage. What is GDP? We're talking about your gross domestic product. What it is that you have to sell, what is the value of your economy, compare now to your debt. So your gross domestic product is what you gather, what you have to sell, the taxes where you collect, how much money your economy value. Before the hurricane, Jamaica's economy was valued at 3.2 trillion Jamaican dollars. And if we lose 41% of that, that is what brings us down to $1.9 trillion. St. Elizabeth is called the food basket of Jamaica. Top production in food. Negril, Westmoreland is one of the tourism mecca. St. James, tourism mecca, Hanover. So they are the people who generate the money. That $3.2 trillion. And if we got damage to the effect that we are going to lose $8.8 billion, that is what brings your GDP now below your debt. The debt is $2.2 trillion. So that must bring your debt to GDP over 100%. It's simple mathematics. Let me thank the people on Caribbean Radio 97.9 HD4 for joining us this evening. We will be back with you next week, Tuesday evening, coming to you from Jamaica, giving you real Jamaican news and views. Hurricane Melissa is still the thing. And if you can assist, give the people them a light. It is an initiative that we have here. Give them a light. So send a solar light for somebody down our west when they have electricity. Brighten up them life for Kings for the Christmas. Yeah? Although we don't celebrate Christmas because Jesus Christ was not born in December. No gosso. I eat and something that. Yeah, man. So I want to thank everybody. Sister Tanya, Sister Cynthia. Yeah, man. Big up on yourself. Reverend Saint Hope. Bro G. Good evening, my brother. Mr. and Mrs. Geary. Not no wrong if me call him Mr. and Mrs. Geary. Big up on yourself. And thanks to everybody on Caribbean Radio for joining the show this evening. It has been a pleasure. Remember, we'll be with you next week. And check out my social media angle on Portland Spice TV at YouTube. We have some great interviews on it where you need to watch. An interview was done last week, Saturday morning, with Dr. Alfred Dawes and Philip Paulwell. It's a must watch. Thanks, everybody. This has been the Colin Bell Show for yet another Tuesday evening. Thanks to all my listeners and viewers right here on YouTube at Portland Spice TV. Yeah, man, we are going to bring on the teacher one more time, Ralston Iman, for we discuss all of this. And I hope the minister will be questioned in the PAAC tomorrow about all the rubbish that she talk. We'll play this one more time before we leave, that everybody who never hear it can hear it.
About projection of 68% for debt to GDP. How do I compare that to the 41% wipeout of GDP? The 41% member is a measure of the damage relative to your GDP. It doesn't mean 41% of your GDP is wiped out, right? It's measurement versus the GDP for 2024. I gave you what our projection is for this fiscal year in which we are, and going into the next fiscal year, we're expecting the growth in GDP to resume. So I know there are some persons out there who made the mistake of just taking the 41%, piling it on top of the debt to GDP currently and said, oh my God, the world is falling. But that's not how it's done. That just tells me that there's a lack of understanding about the fiscal numbers, about how you calculate debt to GDP, what do you include and what do you not. So there's some work to be done there to help persons to understand that figure. The question about the loan to JPS, is the government prepared to lend the entire amount? I think that was your question. So the loan to JPS was $150 million US, so that they could accelerate the pace at which Jamaicans get their lights back, at which businesses get their light back. Madam Speaker, already I can say to you, you don't have to worry that the government is going to lend the entire amount, right? Already our international partners have indicated that within that package that's announced, there is about $450 million for JPS. And what that will do is allow for our loan of $150 million to be repaid back to us, so we get back the liquidity. It didn't happen last Tuesday. It's happened after that.
May the good Lord continue to bless and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his light and give you his peace. Until we meet again tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock, right here on Portland Spice TV. Peace.